Okay, in lesson 8, we're going to be exploring the use of layers in Illustrator. And when we think about layers, it's sort of at first, if you're not accustomed to working in the Adobe products, layers may seem sort of superfluous or kind of this extra feature, but what you're going to find is because the complexity and volume of objects that you'll be dealing with when you're rendering an illustration that's kind of sophisticated, such as this television boxes, that you're going to want to start being able to manipulate those layers and control them and lock them down in powerful ways, and also organize things because to execute a computer illustration, there is some degree of logic that goes along with the creative piece. So this whole activity, creating layers on 248, is walking you through the use of the layers panel and just giving you an orientation to the different tricks that you can do to make your artwork easier to manage and maneuver. So over here is the layers panel. When you open the file, it may or may not be open, but you click on the layers panel to open it, and we see here that there is by default one layer on the page. This you can toggle the visibility by turning the eye on and off, clicking on that. You can also, and this option here is to lock it so that it cannot be manipulated, meaning that you can't change anything that's on this. And you'll see that my icon shows a pencil with the little no symbol next to it. Like, no, you can't touch this, right? So that is where we start from. What the textbook allows you to do is to really customize your layer features so that you can name it and have some sort of intellectual control over it. What I want to do is make it known that this layer here is the TV layer. So there are many ways to do this, and the textbook will walk you through that. The first way you're shown is to actually go click on the layer, double click on the layer, excuse me, and rename it. And they are asking us to call it side panel in the textbook. So I just literally click and start typing what I want to call it in the side panel. And there we have it. After typing the name, you simply press the enter key to get it to close it back up and seal the name that you've entered into it. Now the next thing that they want us to do is actually create a new layer, and there are a number of ways to do that. The first thing that we're oriented to is the new symbol on any panel that you use. This is InDesign, Photoshop as well. This is the symbol for create new. It kind of looks like a little post-it being peeled up. So it's telling us we can use this option here to click and create a new layer just by clicking on it, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go up here to the layers panel menu, and I have the option right at the very top. I can say new layer. And I'm going to click that. And what it does is it brings up the layer options box, which allows me to really customize this layer. You're going to see the feature that you're able to rename it here, and you can actually change the color of the layer. And when I say color of the layer, this means how you will know what layer you're on by some of the visual cues you get when you're on that layer. So for example, your guides on a layer will be the color red. The indicator over here tells you that this is the color of the layer. And it helps you get sort of this frame of reference for the behind the scenes development of the artwork that will ultimately not be seen when the final object is rendered and finished. So this is layer 2, and what they're asking us to do is call it TV body. So I'm going to do that, TV body. And it says, does it print? Does it show? Is there a preview? And all these other options that you have. So we'll just say OK to close it. And you see that we've renamed it here. Okay, there's a very expeditious way to do this, to name it and create it and name it in one step. So what they're telling us in step 5 on page 248 is that by pressing on our Alt key and clicking the Create New Layer button, Alt is pressed on my computer, and I'm going to click Create New Layer, we automatically bring up the dialog box. So they ask us in this step on the green layer to call it Screen. And we're laying a foundation for things that we know we're going to want to create. When you're thinking about your object, you are going to start thinking in terms of invisible planes with your layers, and you want to think logically about how to sort your elements together into sort of logical chunks. So like they're saying, the TV body, the TV screen. We're going to see some more examples of that in terms of the knobs. It'll make it very easy for you to maneuver your layers panel while you're making adjustments to finalize your artwork. Now we're going to move on here. One of the things that's very obvious is that this illustration is quite loaded in terms of what we see here on the page with this TV box, this very retro TV box, might I add. And there's a lot going on here. We have the knobs, we have the box itself, we have the cutout for where the screen will be. We are already getting some clues that there's more to this illustration than the layers panel is currently showing us. And what we're talking about in this exercise, Illustrator is telling you that this arrow is an indication that there's more going on here. So what we do is we click on this arrow, and what it does is it, like a window shade, it drops down and shows us all these elements that are pre-existing in the file. And we're going to be manipulating those as well. Now, in my opinion, these elements mean nothing to me as someone who's just walking into this file off the street. Group, path, what is, I mean, I see some knobs and stuff, but it's not very easy for me to use, and it seems like there is a lot of stuff that's bundled together, and so there's some tricks in how we can sort these into more intuitive and logical groups. So here what we're asked to do is to click the side panel layer. And what we can do is create a new sublayer. Now we can click that and create the sublayer and then click the actual sublayer that's created. And oops, excuse me, I have to unlock that. It's calling my bluff. I'm going to create a sublayer. This is the icon for creating a new sublayer. So I click on that and it creates this layer 4. But if we want to be, again, more efficient in doing that, we can repeat the same alternative approach, which is to hold the Alt key down and click on the sublayer. And then it brings up the dialog box, and then we can call the sublayer knobs as is requested in step 7. Okay?